Yo, welcome to Digital Interactions on the Hacking Your Health podcast with your host, Ben Canning. Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome to We Hack Health Digital Interactions. I was just laughing with Justin here before we came on that this is our pilot episode, we will call it, but I have come with a plan. The goal with this podcast and the Digital Interactions podcast is to give you guys a bit of an insight as to what goes on inside. I'm very fortunate to work with some very cool people, and they're doing some very cool things and making some really cool progress. And I thought cool to share those stories with everybody. And Justin has volunteered himself to be the first person. We're coming up. We just replied to your week 50 check-in. So we're almost in a year. In that time, we have lost 56 pounds, 75 centimeters total. But before we get into that, I want you to tell everybody about the person you were a year ago.
Yeah, so person I was a year ago, I was a dad, so still am a dad. But Chase was 3 about that time. I work, like a lot of people have probably listened to this, in cybersecurity, so worked remotely full time since 2015, right here in this office. So yeah, in that time, I just always busy, everything like that. Never kind of got around to prioritize my health. As you can see over my shoulder here, prior to that, I was, Marine. So, kind of being fit was not something foreign to me. I was a pretty decent high school athlete too, but, a year ago, just kind of keeping up with my son and kind of seeing, him grow and everything like that was like, look, like one, I want to be around as long as possible with him. And this other part is like, I want to be able to do the stuff that he needs me to do, right? Like in 10 years from now when he's playing, so he'll be 14 then, when he's playing sports and stuff, I want to be able to go out and throw around a football with him. I want to be able to play baseball, that stuff. And I just kind of had an epiphany a year ago. Look, that's just, I need to start changing if I'm going to make that happen, right? It's not going to be something that I can do right now. I didn't feel well most of the time, was constantly tired, sick, really just felt like I was fighting my body all the time to get anything done, right? Like a day at the zoo or something like that I'd have to come back and take a nap or something like that because I just wasn't able to do things physically that I needed to do.
Okay. And before we get into the next question, talk to me about how you feel now, 50 weeks later.
Completely different. So it's crazy because if you would have told me a year ago, and I think it was actually this Friday will be a year since we had our discovery call, right? If you'd have told me on the discovery call, like, hey, in a year you're going to feel this way and you're going to be able to do all this and everything like that, like I wouldn't have hired you. Like I would have been like,
this guy's crazy.
Yeah, this guy's crazy. Probably the biggest difference, I think I've noticed is something David talked about in his journey too, of just like how much more I can do in the same amount of time in a day, right? Like I get up every day, whether I want to or not, most days at like 5:30, 5:45, and I'm wide awake. I don't know if it's because Andrew Huberman told me to go stare at the sun or just because I'm like in good shape now, but I get up, I'm ready to go. I hit the gym, I come back, maybe a little bit tired or something like that, but I get straight into my work. My mental clarity is like way better. I think, I'd kind of shared with the group a couple months back. I actually won an award at my company for like the MVP of the whole company. And kind of the weird thing about that for me is kind of when I started this with you a year ago, I kind of told myself, look, like you've been prioritizing your career for a while. You might have to deprioritize that a little bit, which is hard for me because I have a very high standard for myself in everything, but especially in my work. And I was like, you might have to deprioritize that a little bit and maybe not be able to do as well as you usually do to focus on this because like you need to be in better health. And then the reality ended up being like I took all this time for myself to make myself better and then actually made myself better, right? So in the time that I was at work, I wasn't putting in the nights and weekends like I was previously and all that stuff, but I was just getting a lot more done at a lot higher level than what I was previously. So I kind of said the other day, I think to Dave in the chat of like, I used to wonder how you had so many hours in the day, and I still do a little bit, but I'm starting to see a little bit more how that came to be. Like it's, we all have the same 24 hours, but they're not the same 24 hours, right? Like,
yeah, agree. And I think that's the tough thing, because 90% of the people that I speak to on initial calls, or anybody that I come in contact with, like their biggest concern or biggest struggle is time, because they spend so much time doing work, family life, whatever the thing is. Whenever I'm telling them they need to take time away from those things to spend on going to the gym or managing their nutrition or cardio or whatever the stuff is, they feel like they don't have it because it's going to take away. But as you said, whenever you actually do consciously do those things, the capacity that you can work at in every other aspect of your life, or how much better you can show up as a parent, as a partner, in work, whatever the thing is insane, the difference. But again, if I had told you that a year ago, you'd have been like, this guy is fucking crazy. And I think I can never explain it to people until they're on the other side of it and they get it themselves. So like it's a difficult one to get your head around if you haven't sort of seen it or felt it yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's like where I was at a year ago, that wasn't actually even like my high water mark. Like, I was in 280s then or so. I think 283 is our starting weight for that. Like
yeah.
And I'd actually been in the 290s prior to that. So like on my own, I'd kind of focused on just solely the output side of things and primarily running, and primarily, especially at that weight, running was very painful. That was kind of one of my first goals here, was just like, I just wanted to stop hurting when I run thing. And it was amazing how like once, I think it was even just like the first 20 pounds came off, that helped a lot with that. Now, like I feel a lot better just running generally, but the whole thing there, like I said, it's been amazing to me how far I've come in this time and how much better I felt and what more I can do. And when I started, I think we were doing 3 days a week of weight training. I was getting up early to do that because I didn't think I could fit it into my schedule, which I still do just because I like how it feels in the morning. But like, I was like, this is the one I can sacrifice an hour of sleep or something like that, right? Or I can go to bed an hour earlier and shift this time in here and not miss time with my son, not interfere with work, any of that stuff. And I don't think it was too long after that I started asking you about adding a fourth day of weight training. And then, at that time we were at 60 minutes of cardio. And then it was kind of like, when you bumped it up to 90 minutes, I was like, that's good, because I was pretty much already doing 90 minutes anyway. So like,
I was following your lead on that. I was like, I noticed he's doing a little bit more here. I was like, I feel like I can just push it a little bit.
Yeah. And then now, 10,000 steps to 12,000 steps. And, it just, the whole thing is like, you kind of start to realize again, that 24 hours, like, when you become more efficient in other aspects of life, like you have more time than you think you do. And I, again, wouldn't have believed that a year ago. I'm like, dude, you don't know how busy I am, right? Like, that's how we're all busy, but like, it was kind of my attitude then. So like, we just started with something small, which I thought was a good approach. And then as you start doing that, you start to be able to add in more and more.
Yeah, and that's the goal with me for everybody. People come in and it's either one of two things. They come in and they're like, I just don't have the time, like absolute bare minimum, or they're like they're super enthusiastic and they're like, I just want to train, 14 times a week and I'll be able to do, 60 minutes of cardio a day and all this mad shit. And I'm like, why don't we just start with like what the absolute bare minimum non-negotiables are, and then once we establish that as a routine, then we can start to build on it. And I always find that like it'll be you coming back to me asking to add more. Maybe sometimes I'll ask, do you have the capacity for more? But it's like, you like how it feels. You realize you have the time to do more. You realize whenever you do more, you feel better. So it's like, the truth of the matter is it's a little bit addictive of that feeling. So you want to add more and more in it because you want to feel better and better and better. And it's amazing how much time becomes available that you didn't have before.
Yeah. And even in those 4 days too, like, it's funny because like once I went to Pittsburgh last year and got a little bit of taste of powerlifting again. Like, I did powerlifting in high school. My team in high school won 2 state championships. I set the school record in squat for lightweight division and all that stuff. So powerlifting wasn't foreign to me, but like once I got that little bit of taste of it again, and it was weird how like having not really, I did it some whenever I was in the Marine Corps, but not like seriously focused on for a long time. Like how natural it kind of came back from like a form perspective and everything. Like I was like, I haven't done power cleans in 20 years and now it like feels great. Like, but starting out, like I just kind of asked like, hey, can we add in squat, bench, and deadlift like on this day? So like we didn't add a day, but we added those big compound lifts in there.
Mm-hmm.
And then just one day in the gym waiting on a machine, I went and did some power cleans on my own. And I was like, hey, can we add in some power cleans too? And you're just like, yeah, sure. Like, so, but
Yeah, good to find the love for that again. And I think that, again, there's just something about the pure rawness of lifting a heavy weight in some way, shape, or form. Let's go back to the year ago. You said you sort of saw you wanted to keep up with your son. You saw that, you needed to make a change. Like, what was the moment? What was that light bulb moment of like, I need to book this call. Like, I need to reach out.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because there isn't a strong one on that. Like, so like I'd listened to the podcast a little bit here and there for a while. I was in the Discord, all that stuff, and it was all kind of like part of a plan of what I was going to do, but like hadn't done. Is like, oh yeah, there's this thing over here, and I'm gonna really focus on this when I get the time thing. And I think you had put out, a tweet or something like that about like, hey, I'm not going to be accepting clients for a while or something like that after the end of May or something. And I'd just seen that tweet and just, I don't know what else was going on in my life at that point or whatever, but I was like, you know what, it doesn't hurt to book a discovery call and just see what's going on, right? Like, and honestly, I really wasn't expecting to do anything from it because I wasn't, and this is gonna sound kind of weird, I wasn't expecting to like you. Even though I'd like see you on the podcast and stuff, like generally most like fitness coaches or like fitness gurus or things like that, like are just too rigid in their approach for me of like it's that Lane Norton talked about of like that like almost arrogance of like expert type thing of like this is the only way and you have to do it this way, and like I don't know as much as you do, but I know enough to know that's not true and there's a lot of different ways to do things. So that like when we got on the call and that was kind of your approach is like, look, I have kind of a system I operate in and everything like that, but like what works best for one person doesn't necessarily work best for another person. I try to tailor it to who you are as a person, what your goals are as a person. I was like, okay, that's a lot better because I just didn't see myself fitting into, if you'd have told me, hey, you need to go do the carnivore diet and you need to, stand on one leg while the sun comes up and stare at it every morning or something like that.
We haven't tried that yet. We could try that. I'll put that in your next check-in, the stand on one leg thing. But I think that this was an observation that I had in myself. Because I feel like I can only talk from my own experience as a coach. I learned how to coach a certain way from the people that coached me, which is fair enough. The people who coach me are very much like aesthetics-based bodybuilders, like eat out of Tupperware, get your steps in, like you have to live like a fucking robot, essentially, which at the time was fine for me because I worked in the gym and I literally didn't have anything else to do. As I have sort of changed my priorities, as I now have a family, as I now, run a business, I'm not in the gym anymore. I'm pretty much, I work here now at this desk. And the more and more people that I work with, I see that number one, that's not the only way to do things. But number two, the most successful way for anybody is the way that works for them. So yes, could we have made progress doing it the super strict way that you had to eat 6 meals a day and at 10 a.m. you had to eat 4 Brazil nuts and 5 grams of dark chocolate and whatever other bullshit that you had going on? Probably could have done that and made progress in the short term. But the goal for me is to actively, build a framework and give you the tools that you can do this essentially forever. That okay, right, I want to lose 10 pounds, this is what I need to do, or I want to work on my bench and gain strength, this is what I need to do. And that's why we sort of, number one, spend as much time as we do going through things. But number two, like start off with those basics and then just refine and refine and refine as go. And even as I said, like I'll always wait for you to come back to me as that, okay, I have more time to do things rather than me forcing it on you. If I do feel like there is capacity to do it, I'll make a suggestion, but it's not always like it has to be this way. It has to be the way that works for you. And that you can do it slightly longer term.
And for me too, like that was another kind of positive. It's just that I know that like I'm never gonna eat out of Tupperware at a party or something like that. Like I love food too much. Like you can see from last name Italian. Like I may not look Italian by this, but I've got an Italian stomach. So like food is cooking, eating, and I know you're the same way too. I've seen the food you cook. It looks amazing. Yeah. Like I just love food too much to ever really do that for the rest of my life type thing, right? Like but like the thing I've kind of learned in this and stuff is like there's a difference between like effective and optimal, right? Like is like would it be optimal for me to measure out everything I put in my body, never go out to eat at a restaurant, hit these explicit macro goals, all that stuff? Like it'd probably be a faster progress for it and stuff, but to your point, like there's no way I'm doing that the rest of my life. Like I'm gonna go on vacation, I'm gonna cook food, I'm gonna go out to restaurants. Like it's just who I am as a person. And like if I were dying or something, could I change that? Probably. And in a way we're all dying, right? But but like it just still is not something I want to do. Like I want to be able to cook for my family. I want to be able to enjoy life and food and all that stuff. So like, the upside to it is like anytime I've lost weight previously or anything like that, and when I joined the Marine Corps in 2007, I actually lost between 30 to 40 pounds just to join. So I was in college, and that was kind of my first. I got up to like 238, I think, is what I was at whenever I first showed up in the Marine Recruiter, and I had to lose weight to ship off. So my friend was killed in Iraq in March of 2007. Within a week or two, I went to go enlist, and I had to really crash to lose weight to go to Paris Island by July of that year. So like I 3-4 months there where I lost a ton of weight. So like I did that, but like I focused a little bit on nutrition at that point, but any other time, like when I was in the Marine Corps, I ate whatever I wanted. Like, I worked out a lot, but I ate whatever I wanted. And when I tried to lose weight in the last few years, that was kind of the missing piece for me. So even just having an approach to nutrition was effective, right? Like could have been optimal, sure. Now, funny thing is in the last few months, now that I've gone down some of the, Huberman, Atia, Andy Galpin, like things, as I start kind of looking more for optimal on a lot of things. So like you remember a few weeks back with the doctor, I had a couple surgeries and stuff, and they're like, you can you can do this for recovery and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, but what's the optimal approach? Like, like I know I can, but what's the best way for this to heal as fast as possible is like kind of now how I think about things.
But again, like this is, it's a sort of evolution of the way that you do things. And if I had have come in with that optimal approach right at the start, there would have been like no bueno. Like it would have been like this isn't happening. Whereas now you understand that you have a framework, and I do sort of try this for the majority of people that I work with. Is like sometimes we decide, okay, look, for a very short period of time, we're going to actively do something here that we know is not sustainable, but it is as optimal as we can make it, just to challenge yourself, just to see if you can do it, just to know that you have that additional tool. And it's not fun. It sucks. But it's a good exercise to do, that you have that tool available whenever you need to. And there is that sort of like always seeking that 1%, this to like, how can I get 1% better in my nutrition or sleep or cardio or whatever the thing is. And again, that's that sort of, I guess that, probably specifically for you, me knowing it is, it's that like continuously wanting to know more about the thing. Like, how can I learn more about this topic? How can I be better in this? And how can I have a better understanding of things?
Yeah, I think a good example of that is the fasting that we've added in. Yeah. That's another thing that I came to you with, right? I was fasting, basically, initially for religious reasons, and kind of came to you and just like, hey, what would be, a good length of fast and stuff that's not going to interfere with my training, all that stuff. Like I want to honor God, but I also like, I want to get my 4 sessions in kind of thing. And you kind of suggested the 36 hours of, 36-hour fast. And, I did it like a couple times, and then I was kind of like, seeing like what's happening on the scale before and after this, like what if we did this every other week? So then we did that for a little bit, and then it was, well, what if we did this every week, which is what I'm doing right now. So basically on Thursdays, so tonight I'll eat dinner, and then I won't eat again until Friday morning. And is that for everybody? No, but as you kind of mentioned in my check-in today, like the one thing I like about it is it, especially like I feel like I train pretty hard, so like in the rest of the week I'd rather have like calories for those training days, to where I'm not starving myself and stuff. I'd rather have calories be a little bit higher and just not eat one day than to like spread that out across the week, right? Like it would be a lot harder for me to do that. And then it's also, you kind of mentioned like a challenge thing of like when I first started out with fasting, is there was kind of a, just being in charge of my body approach of like, oh, you think I'm hungry? I'm going to go for a walk instead. Like this kind of like whipping my body into shape of like, you think one thing, I'm going to go do the other. And then now it's just it's got kind of cool. Like in that, like although this past week, because I started back training after the few weeks off, I was a lot more hungry this past week than I had been previously. And I was like, but I'm just generally not as hungry when I do it. I barely even think about it. I just dive into work all day in life and just don't even really think about like, oh yeah, I didn't eat lunch or I didn't eat dinner. And then maybe around dinner time, it's just kind of like okay, well, all I have to do is fall asleep and I win thing. But it's like kind of a challenge of like doing that. But it's also just felt good from a few other perspectives. Like one, like I definitely feel like it kind of flushes out my system a little bit of like, just not having to digest food for a day in there kind of gives my digestive system a break. I definitely do feel even too like I noticed a few fasts ago that I was like sitting here in my office shivering, and I was like, why am I so cold? And I looked it up, and they were like, well, yeah, that's when your body basically takes blood away from your limbs to start breaking down fat and everything like that to fuel your body. Like it's so that's why and I'm like, okay, so it's working then. So I love that I'm shivering now. I'm gonna go put on
The coldness is a sign of fat loss. We're in.
I'm gonna come onto my next call with a winter hat and a coat and look like a psychopath, but like.
But I think the fasting is something that I specifically remember training with Callum, and we decided that I was going to do a shoot in a very short period of time. I was challenged by another one of the coaches in the gym, and he was like, we have two options, and one of the options was reduce calories every single day and it's going to suck. The other option was do a 36-hour fast once a week and increase calories other days. And I was like, I can increase my calories? Like, I'm in for that one. Like, that one definitely sounds better. And you're right, the first couple of times it's a big mental game, because obviously your body's used to having breakfast at the same time, lunch at the same time, dinner at the same time. So you naturally do have that like psychological hunger at those times. But if you make it to bedtime, like you said, you've won. And I found on those days, I was a lot more productive because your body's not using energy to digest food throughout the day. You have a lot more energy available to like think and get shit done. So it's something that I have used sort of on and off myself for many, many years. And like you said, it's not for everybody. And you came to me with it. It is, again, just another tool that we know that we can play about with, and essentially being able to increase your calories on the other days and just have that one day that you don't eat. Like it's no brainer for me.
Yeah. And, I've noticed too, like just it's, partly maybe like that I think clearer, but it's also like I just think differently when I'm on a fast. So like sometimes I'll have a problem that I've been banging away at for a week or something like that, and then I'll hit my fast day and I'll look at that problem and I'm like, oh, I'm holding it upside down kind of thing. Like, like that epiphany, and it is just like whatever it is of, whether your brain's going from carbs to ketones or something like that changes that, or something like something different happens in your brain that helps with that. And just going back to like, hey, had you said this on our discovery call thing, if you would have said, hey, we're gonna fast one day a week, I would have like been like, oh, that's nice to meet you, and like blocked your email or something, because I tell my wife all the time now, because like in our group, I'm kind of like, people ask fasting questions, I'm kind of the one that jumps in with some of that stuff because I've been doing it, and I think Alan's tried it, and then Boyd had kind of brought it up, and I was like, he was saying that there's, a reason like you can't really do it. And I'm like, are you sure you really can't do it? Because I feel like I'm trying to sell the fast a little bit, but it's just like, I would have never thought I would be the fast guy, right? Like, because I always thought that was like some crazy stuff out there. Of, I know there was an NFL player, Russell Okung, that lost like a ton of weight post playing days. He was an offensive tackle. It was from a fasting approach, and that was kind of like came in the news right after I started with you, and I was just like, that's just an insane way to do it. And I still think the way he did it, which was like a months-long fast, is insane.
Yeah.
You spent decades as an offensive lineman in the NFL building up all this muscle, and then you just lost all of it. Like, there could have been a better, longer approach to that. But I'm kind of like, yeah, I mean, I could kind of see it. Like, I kind of joked with my wife last week. I was like, what if I just didn't eat for longer now until I'm out of weight, right? Like, it doesn't really bother me as much as like I said, I thought it would, right? And I'm the guy who loves food too, like, so that's the other thing I already said.
Yeah. You're the salesman for the 36-hour fast within the team for now. I think the longest fast I've done is 58 hours. Just to sort of challenge myself. I'm not putting that on you, but now I've put the idea in your head.
Now I got to do 59.
Like, I'm going to be like 58 and a half hours.
I'm just going to figure out how to get all my training in and do 58 and a half hours next week. So.
Fair. Right. What is the most unexpected thing that you've gained in the past year from just being a part of the crew?
I would say one of the things is kind of just like the community and stuff. Again, and not to make myself sound horrible here, but like not generally like a big fan of people I don't know kind of thing. Especially like coming into Pittsburgh, there was definitely some like, I know none of these people and I'm going to stay in a house with them, right? That's really weird. Like, the only one I know is Ben, basically, and I only know him from like the internet. So like, it's really kind of strange. But like, it's just kind of weird how like natural, like kind of some of the conversation and friendships are with people that like, I feel like, I guess I met Todd in Pittsburgh, but like if I saw Todd, like if I was down at the Prudential Center or something in Boston, somewhere in his vicinity or whatever, like if I came across Todd, I'd be like, oh hey Todd, like probably hug him and stuff, right? Like you really start to feel like that family aspect of things of you get to know people, get to know their lives, get to see people playing with their kids and stuff, which always resonates for me. I need to record too. Like my son puts me through a workout every night of kind of like 4-year-old kettlebell swings. Like he wants to lift him up in the air to like different songs and stuff over and over, which he hated that I couldn't do for a few weeks when I was recovering from my surgery. But like he but like like I build up a sweat like when he before bedtime every night, just doing that with him. And again, it's to me like on one hand it's like I just worked out today, I went on a run, I did 12,000 steps, whatever, like but like so like I'm exhausted, but then I'm also like it's kind of awesome that I can do this, right?
Agree.
But yeah, like the community was kind of an unexpected aspect of it because I didn't really think I would be as involved in it as I am. I didn't think I would be actively seeking out to like train with people when I travel for work and stuff like that in their cities and all that. So
yeah, for me that's the cool thing, and I had a couple of messages from clients over the weekend there that were training together, and like that sort of like whenever you guys go and train, it's not organized by me, that you're just like in the same vicinity or you're traveling for work or whatever the thing is, you get a session in. Like that's the cool aspect of it for me. Yes, the events are cool, but seeing that sort of happen like organically is quite cool for me. Let's talk about the surgeries then. So we recently went through 2 surgeries and had to take some time off training. I know for a lot of people that would have thrown a huge spanner in the works because we feel like training is such a huge part of what it is that we do, which it obviously is. But the thing that we sort of focused on was literally everything else, like all of the other metrics that we manage, making sure that we nailed nutrition, doing exactly what we could do based on what the doctor's recommendations were. Talk me through that process and having to take some time off and how that was mentally and how you sort of navigated it.
Yeah, so it was definitely interesting. So the good thing is, I thought if we'd started this, I would have probably said during this time off, I'm probably going to gain 4 to 6 pounds. It's kind of what I chalked up into my mind. I'm going to gain a little bit. Like we changed some things up, like cut calories a little bit up, and another thing too is Alexandria's like said, did Ben, double your steps? And I was like, oh no, actually I did that. And he just didn't disagree with it. So like when I got my directions from the doctor after the surgery, I was just kind of like, oh, and I'm going to be walking 20,000 steps a day, which I didn't quite understand how long that would take whenever I did it. But I did a little bit of math around it and was like, I'm just going to, when I would go to the gym in the morning, I'm going to get up and I'm going to walk. And I'm already doing 10,000 steps a day, so I'll do that. A lot of times that's during, like at work, if there's a call that I'm just kind of on, but I'm not having to be at my keyboard for it, I can take that on a walk, or I can take it over lunch, or I can take it after work or something like that. I usually squeeze that walk in. But it's kind of funny because part of that walk, I finished some audiobooks and stuff like Peter Attia's Outlive. I finished that, and one of the things he talks about is the concept of the centenary decathlon. And I'm like out there, and I'm kind of like, is this what my this is probably what my workout plan is going to look like when I'm 100, right? Like, is out here walking in the woods, taking pictures of ducks and stuff like that. Because again, it was one of those who am I moments thing of like walking. I think 20,000 steps, it like works out to like 9 miles a day or something like that. So it's not, to steal a phrase from you that I told my in-laws when they asked how long, I was like, it's not something that happens on accident, right? Like you don't accidentally go out and walk 20,000 steps. So like making the time for it and stuff was again kind of a new challenge, and I like challenges, I like novelty and all that stuff. So I kind of was like, well, if all I can do is walk, I'm gonna walk the hell out of it, kind of thing. And that's what I went and did. But we ended up, I think I meant to say this up front, but now putting on the back stories, we ended up over the few weeks that I couldn't, do weight training or cardio, any of that stuff, losing about 6 pounds. And that was really just sticking to nutrition, doing my fasts, and doing the steps.
I think that the biggest thing for keeping the steps in, it allowed you to keep the habit. Do you mean like you did it at the time you usually went to the gym? So there's not like an on and off. So it's like, I stopped the gym for 4 weeks and then I have to like actively get started. You still did some sort of movement at that time, which allowed you then just to slot the gym back in. And then now obviously the gym's back in, we're back to full send, and progress is progressing a little bit more. And it's funny that, you know, you're saying that you suggest these things to me, but I remember specifically in the check-in last week, me knowing sort of your thought process, I was like, right, we have to reduce steps because just from a time capacity, we won't have it if we're reintroducing the gym. But I know that you want to go back down to what you were before. So instead of it going back down to 10,000 from 20, we did it 12. And you text me saying, you've read my mind. I'm like, this is how a good client coaching relationship works, is whenever I start to know what's coming next on your end.
Yeah, I was actually debating how much steps I could keep in. I was like, should I do 12,000 or 15,000? And again, did some of the math on it and everything like that. And it's like, I could do 12,000. That's like an extra 15 minutes or something like that. Like, you know, so that, yeah, I was already thinking that in there.
Cool.
And, you know, to your point, like of keeping it in the schedule and everything like that, like, you know, when I went on vacation last summer, my wife and I both got up and trained at my usual time, not her usual time and everything like that while we were there. And that was like before my son was up and everything. And I thought like that was better. And then like, you know, if you don't want to train on vacation or something like that, get up and do something at the time you would train, right? Like go for a walk on the beach, something like that. Like that's something I'm going to kind of take from this lesson, is it doesn't even have to be like keeping in the routine that you do all the time, but keep it doing something. Get up and swim in the pool, do something, like, cause it's just, I think I said to you, like, it's a lot easier to get back on the wagon if you don't ever get off, right? Like, and it's, maybe you're not, you know, driving the wagon full speed or anything like that. Maybe you kick back and relax a little bit on the wagon, but like,
you can be the passenger seat in the wagon for a couple of weeks, but like you're still in the wagon.
Yeah, you're still in the wagon's still going, and maybe not making the progress it was, but you're not having to climb back up there.
Yeah. I'm going to do some quick fire questions. People on the outside won't know this, but anytime someone new gets introduced, somebody, usually Luke or Todd, will come in with quick fire questions of like your initiation. So we'll go through them for share with everybody. Avocados or no?
Oh, no, definitely not. It tastes like slimy grass to me or something. I know it's a good source of fats and everything like that. So like from the new people always have, it's almost like Dave with the cold plunge, is like, I know the benefits of avocados, and like every once in a while I wanted to just like, oh, this is ruining whatever it's in or on. No, it's not that I haven't had a good avocado, to the people that are probably thinking that to themselves right now. Like I've had several people who've tried to school me on that, and it's like, no, there's just no such thing.
It's just a no. What brand of air fryer do you have?
I do not have an air fryer. I have a convection oven thing. So, but
in the bin, I can't believe we're almost a year in and you haven't. Maybe for our year anniversary, I'll send you an air fryer.
I mean, I need y'all to give me some more counter space first, because if I had the more counter space, I'd already have an Ninja Creamy to go with an air fryer. But
yeah, that seems to be the maybe that's a better purchase coming into the summer months. What is your go-to excuse for skipping leg day?
I don't really think I have an excuse for.
Nah, you're not the sort of person that would skip leg day. I know that.
Yeah, not really. Although it's funny because I made that joke to you in my first training session back when I had the call last week of like, you told me to just go have fun in the gym because I was adapting back in. I was like, I just did bicep curls and tricep extensions for like an hour. And you're like, oh, good. But I'm like, but you know me well enough to know that's not what I did.
That's not what happened. That's not what happened at all. If you were a fitness superhero, what would your superpower be?
That's a good question. I mean, the obvious one kind of is deadlift, right? Like I would just be able to deadlift any
deadlift the shit out of everything.
Buildings, cars, trucks. Like that would be the most practical one to have. Of like, oh, hey, we need to move this house. Like I got the. Like,
just call Justin. Oats, cooked or uncooked?
Uncooked primarily. So I think there was some debate on that.
The correct way.
Yeah, I do overnight oats. I don't do like the traditional cold like you, but I do.
Okay, we can say hot. We can say hot or cold. Hot or cold's maybe better. So cold.
Yeah, I would say cold. Yes.
Okay. What is the most absurd health and fitness related advice you've ever received?
Ooh, that's a good one. I feel like I should know some of these off the top of my head because my wife, she has a fitness YouTube channel too and stuff, so we're all the time kind of like picking out things that seem absurd in there. I would say, I would say like, that's a good one. I don't know. I just think like it's the hey, like anything that's like, hey, you have to do X, right? So like if it's, you're never, like kind of a big one going on like right now is a lot of the stuff around like, insulin sensitivity and carbs and all of that stuff. And it's like, I think, the ridiculous part of it is it's just like, you're getting, you're jumping again from effective to optimal. Like maybe there's a world where some of that stuff plays into for somebody, but like it's not like, kind of my attitude on is anything's better than nothing, right? So like I think a lot of people paralyze themselves by thinking like, oh, well, I can't eat a carbohydrate because it'll never work if it's like, well, no, like you just eat fewer of those carbohydrates. Like there's, and it's the channel Lane Norton, like the law of thermodynamics thing of like, it's, maybe there are some things where it's not entirely, and I think you'd ask a question around like difference in somebody consuming the same amount of calories and different levels of protein and all that stuff. But there's some play around the edges and stuff, but at the same time, like it, it's a little bit simpler than people try to make it sometimes.
So. Yeah, I agree. And there's the in-between bits. Like, yes, there is optimal. And I think anybody who says this is the only way to do this, I think that's probably best to avoid there. It's like, thank you for the advice, but then tell them to fuck off. If you could only do one exercise forever, what would it be?
Man, that's tough. It's like, I only have one kid, but it's like asking me to pick my favorite kid.
Hopefully you can answer that one.
No, I would say probably, that would probably be deadlift. Because, it's kind of funny, like I mentioned in high school, like in powerlifting, like I was pretty good at deadlift, but like squat was my specialty. But now maybe just because of being older and stuff, squat does not feel as good as it did when I was 15 years old. But deadlift, still just the concept of just grabbing this heavy weight and standing up is very satisfying.
Yeah, there's definitely some like Neanderthal almost in us whenever we're lifting in a deadlift. I get that.
Yeah, and I start doing, I'm the guy that like, especially if I'm going for a PR or something like that, I'm hitting myself and things like that and like pacing around and everything like that. So like, I don't know, that kind of like, it almost reminds me of the football playing days, right? Of like psyching yourself up on the field and just trying to move the guy across from you kind of thing. It's kind of same thing with it's just you in the weight moment there.
Yep, getting yourself in the headspace for it. If you could only eat tacos or sushi for the rest of your life, what would you choose?
Tacos, and that's, I mean, sushi I like a lot too, but probably tacos, mainly just because like I'm eating tacos a few times a week right now.
You're already doing that one.
With a good lean ground beef, it's very, Mission carb balanced tortillas or something like that. Like it's a really good macro thing. So like my wife is probably getting sick of tacos, so I've like adapted it into like doing a few different ways of seaking the tacos and things like that now, because like we probably have tacos 2-3 times a week plus
versatile though. Like this is, if you put actually maybe decide between tacos and sushi, I would very much struggle. But the thing that tips over the edge for me is like, you can have breakfast tacos. I don't know, you can have breakfast sushi, and that is just, that's not okay for me. Would you rather do 100 push-ups, 100 squats, or 100 burpees?
Probably 100 push-ups.
Fair. That's fair.
100 squats I feel like would be easier, but like the 100 push-ups, you come out of it with a nice pump. So like that kind of, and then burpees are just out. Like I'd rather do 100 push-ups than one burpee. So like
very true. I would rather do 100 push-ups, 100 squats than no burpees.
Now my wife loves burpees. It's weird.
I can't.
I don't know. Like nobody loves burpees, but she insists on it. She loves burpees. She goes and like seeks HIIT workouts and stuff to do.
No way.
I haven't done burpees in a while, and I'm like, why would you want to?
But like, yeah, me either. Not in 30. I haven't done them in 36 years. For me, the reason that I would program burpees and I never did whenever I coached one-to-one is because I would have had to then demonstrate. So if I said to you, we were on a gym floor, like, okay, we're going to do burpees, and then I would have to show you, it means I would actually have to do them. So I just have nobody's ever gotten them unless they've asked for them.
I've got my own trauma with burpees too, is in boot camp in the Marines. Like they just call it face feet. Like basically like the drill instructor would get like something to like even just tap his belt buckle. When he tapped it, you'd have to go face feet. And like they would do this until the cement floors, like they would do this until like the floor was slick enough that you were like falling, like you'd go to drop and it like slip and hit your face and stuff like it. So like that was like our punishment in there. So it's like, I'm never going to do that to myself. Like they did enough of that.
Fair. I'm going to take Kyle's question from Phoenix. Favorite type or favorite method of cooking potato? Favorite type of potato?
Favorite type of potato?
Yeah.
I mean, potatoes are good generally. I would say probably French fries of some type.
Fair.
But yeah, like I'm really not a big baked potato guy. Never have been.
No.
I don't know.
No.
Mainly because like it just doesn't have enough flavor that way, and then like people add like butter, but it's like if I want to just eat butter, like I don't want to just eat butter.
I could just eat
like,
butter.
Yeah, like I could just eat butter. I could just eat sour cream or whatever you're putting on the potato. Like the potato itself doesn't have.
Fair. Okay. Last question from me. If you're describing We Hack Health to someone, what do you say?
Not a cult.
Whenever I put that in, I was like, I'm going to ask everybody that question. Like, how many clips of people can we get saying not a cult?
I would describe it as like, and I think I have the few folks that I've tried to encourage to sign up for Discovery Call. It's just like it's like a kind of a cheat code for whatever it is you're trying to do from a fitness perspective. In that, like, one, you get you right, like, so you're gonna plan nutrition, all that stuff, like, then, and you're also gonna kind of monitor that, make sure you're holding to it. But like the other part of it is like you get the group with it, right? So like you even recognize you don't have all the answers and stuff. Sometimes it's like, hey, you should ask this to the group, because it might be like, I'm looking for this widget to do this, solve this problem in working out. And you don't own every widget that ever was created around fitness. Like you probably own most of them, but not all of them.
Not yet.
Yeah, like, or hey, I want a supplement to do this, or like, what's a good way to, like, I don't know, just that whole thing of like, you're not going at the problem on your own. And I think I told you when we did our discovery calls, it's like, again, probably a common thing in this industry of like, a lot of us are really smart. Not to humble brag on myself, but I'm not stupid. So like, I'm like, I've always kind of been telling myself, like, look, I'll just figure this out. And that's probably true. I probably could figure out what I need to do and all that stuff. But when is it going to get to the top of my priority stack? When am I going to actually do that? Like, why wouldn't I just pay somebody that's already done all of that research, that follows an evidence-based approach, and it's just going to give me the answer, right? Like, I know ChatGPT won't do that for you. Like, we've tried.
Not yet. Yeah, we've tried. Not yet. We're not. Some advice, not good for others. On that, and this is, truthfully, I had thought this, and this is, I guess, in a sense, me wanting to give back to you for taking the time. As you know, we run like a referral offer within the community. So basically, if someone mentions your name whenever they onboard, you get a free month and they get a free month. Anybody who listens to this and is motivated and inspired by what Justin has said, that signs up, if they put your name in their form, they will get a free month and you will get a free month. So we'll see what comes off the back. Just you mention anybody that you sort of mentioned about signing up. That's it for me. Any final words from you? Any closing words?
No, like I said, it just, I guess the one big thing is, I would say it's just, there is no like honor, like, or benefit in just doing this career, whatever it is, like, but particularly in tech and InfoSec, all that stuff. Like, there's no badge of honor or anything like that in doing this in hard mode. We've lost way too many people too young that we're kind of, and not to get emotional, but like, we're kind of luminaries in this industry, people I've looked up to. And like, stop that. Like, and it's not that this is the only way to do that, but just do something. Like, it, prioritize yourself a little bit. It's not selfish to do that. So you're actually, it's like, maybe you or somebody brought up the analogy of putting on your mask first on an airplane when there's pressure or something like that. Like, you got to do that. And believe me, and I'm glad to talk to anyone one-on-one about the specifics of it, is like, it's not like a zero-sum game. Like, you're not going to lose, all the stuff you worked so hard to build in your career and everything like that. It's not going to just happen. Like, there is ability to do both. And just please do it, because we've lost too many people. It's way too important for you to be healthy and happy and all that, than it is to, ship out the latest, ship out a PR or, whatever it is that you're working on, crush this project or whatever. That stuff's all great, but like, it's really important to do this. And like, I speak fairly frequently at conferences and stuff now, and I pretty much always have We Hack Health on my About Me slide, just because that's part of who I am now. And it's also just important to me that other people know that something like this exists.
I think, number one, thanks for having that, and thanks for spreading the word with that. Like, and I think, to your point, like, you can have both. Do you know what I mean? You can be super successful in your career, but also you can look after your health. And I know that I sort of joked about this a couple of years ago with Dave on the podcast and just in conversations back and forward. Like, but I do think genuinely, like, between myself and him and the podcast and you guys spreading the word and obviously what we're doing here, like, there genuinely is an opportunity to change the narrative of the industry. And like, it's sometimes difficult for me to believe that I'm in the position to be able to do that whenever I talk to other coaches about it, and sort of, I guess, what a privilege it is to be in that position and to have people like yourself that are willing to spread the word. And, you know, I think that the best thing for me is actually the best way that you can spread the word is by just actively living it and doing it yourself, because then someone will see the change in you and they go, well, fuck, if Justin can do it, I can do it. And then that is sort of how it will sort of continue to grow and expand. And, you know, just even whether it's directly or indirectly, or they work with me directly, or they just see something that you have done and make the change, like just you doing the thing is enough to motivate and inspire someone else to change. And I think that that's the coolest thing about this whole thing.
Yeah, and you know, for Dave's example, which was how I got here, right, was, you know, I knew a little bit of Dave and everything, and I, like, just kind of looking at him, I'm like, look, all of my excuses of I have one kid, he has three, right? Like, I have like, I've got my career, he's got two companies he's running at the time and all that stuff. I'm just like, you know, looking, and it's not, you know, to compare or like that, but it's just like, you know, if he can do it, I can do it, right? And it's the same thing with me, and I'm glad to tell anybody who wants to hear about it that they can do it. And yeah, it's just it's just really important to me, because one of the things that I also on panels talks I always kind of sprinkle in that stuck with me early in my career that a mentor of mine said was, you know, none of us is as smart as all of us. Like, we need everybody in the boat. Cybersecurity is hard enough, you know, especially for folks on the defensive side and stuff. With everybody that we already have, like, we can't be losing more folks that, you know, contribute. So, like, you know, let's not do that, right? Like, let's the more of us that we have, the smarter we'll all be and the better off we'll all be. So.
Yeah, fair, cool. Well, thanks, dude. Appreciate taking the time. Appreciate the work that you continue to put in, and the person that you are within the group and the community. If anybody has any questions for me or Justin, please feel free to reach out. I think as a pilot episode, I think we absolutely fucking nailed it. So thanks for taking the time, and no doubt I will speak to you later on this afternoon on our group call.
All right, sounds good.
Cheers, dude.
Right,
Damn.